The kingdom of Orunja, nestled at the edge of the vast savanna, was a land known for its rich history, mystical secrets, and powerful rulers. King Osei, with his calm demeanor and strong leadership, had long been beloved by his people. Queen Amara, his radiant wife, was known for her wisdom, beauty, and unyielding sense of justice. Together, they were the perfect pair, and their wedding had been the talk of the kingdom for months. It wasn't just a celebration of love, it was a union that promised prosperity and protection for the land. The wedding was set to take place during the harvest festival, a time when the crops were gathered, and the kingdom was in full bloom. But in the kitchens of the royal palace, something darker than anyone could have imagined was beginning to take shape. In a far corner of the royal kitchen, under the supervision of the court's finest bakers, the wedding cake was being crafted. Its design was nothing short of spectacular, layers of rich honey cakes, chocolate, and fruit, each layer gilded with gold dust. Atop it would be a breathtaking sugar sculpture of a lion, the symbol of the kingdom, which would symbolize strength and unity. But what the royal bakers did not know was that one ingredient, an ingredient that had been brought in from a far-off land by a mysterious merchant, was not as harmless as it appeared. The merchant had offered a rare flower, a deep crimson blossom known as the Ajiro flower. Legend told that the flower had healing powers, but it was also said to possess an ancient magic, one that could bind and curse. The merchant had mixed it into the cake's frosting, unknowingly activating a curse that had been dormant for centuries. The arrival of Kofi. Kofi, the small scrappy dog who had lived in the palace for many years, was known to the people as the guardian spirit. He had been with Queen Amara since she was a child, a companion through every stage of her life. Kofi wasn't just a dog, he was a creature of ancient lineage, known to have a heightened sense of awareness that went far beyond what ordinary dogs could understand. The queen had raised Kofi from a pup, after finding him abandoned near the edge of the forest on a stormy night. The villagers believed Kofi was a spirit animal sent to protect the royal family, a creature that could see into both the physical and spiritual worlds. That day, Kofi stood by the queen's side as she prepared for her wedding. He watched with keen eyes as the palace was adorned with banners, flowers, and the sweet smell of roasted meats. The day promised to be perfect. But there was an unease that only Kofi could feel. The cake, which had been brought to the main hall, began to send strange signals to the dog. His nose twitched incessantly, and he started to pace back and forth in front of the giant dessert, sniffing at the air and curling his lip in warning. The queen, who trusted Kofi more than anyone else, knelt down beside him. "What is it, Kofi?" she whispered softly, petting his fur. But Kofi only growled in response, his ears pinned back, as if speaking a language that only he understood. The wedding ceremony. The grand ceremony began as the sun set behind the hills, casting a warm golden glow over the palace grounds. The air was filled with laughter, music, and the rhythmic drumming of the village's musicians. Guests from distant lands gathered in the royal courtyard, seated at long tables decorated with flowers and gleaming silverware. King Osei stood beside his beautiful bride, Queen Amara, as the elder shaman of the kingdom performed the sacred rites. The couple exchanged vows, their hands clasped tightly, and the crowd erupted in joyous applause. As the ceremony drew to a close, the guests moved toward the banquet tables, eager to feast. The wedding cake, a towering spectacle, was unveiled with great fanfare. Its shimmering golden surface dazzled under the light of the lanterns, and the sweet scent of honey filled the air. Kofi had been strangely quiet, his sharp eyes locked onto the cake. The closer he got to it, the more agitated he became. His tail began to wag furiously as he stared at the cake, his teeth showing in a silent snarl. Without warning, Kofi let out a high-pitched bark, louder than any sound he had made in years. The room fell silent. People turned in confusion, staring at the dog who had never before disrupted such an important occasion. Queen Amara looked down at Kofi, her heart racing. She had never seen him so unsettled. "Kofi, what is it?" she asked, kneeling to his side. The dog's eyes were wide with panic, and he let out another sharp bark, his body trembling as he pointed his nose toward the cake. The guests looked on in confusion, but a cold shiver ran through the air, as if the earth itself had taken a deep breath. The cake began to tremble, the layers shifting unnaturally as dark mist began to swirl around its base. It was then that the shaman, a wise and old man named Oloran, stepped forward, his eyes dark with knowledge. The dark curse unveiled. Oloran's voice rang out across the hall. "This is no ordinary cake," he said, his voice carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. "The flour mixed into its frosting carries the curse of the Ajiro. It is a spell of vengeance, created by a powerful sorcerer who sought to destroy this kingdom. The cake is the vessel for his magic, and it has the power to bring ruin to all who partake in it." The air grew thick with tension. Osei, shaken by the revelation, demanded to know how the curse could be broken. "The only way to break the curse is to destroy the magic at its source," Oloran explained. "The Ajiro flower's magic has bound itself to the cake. It must be removed from the kingdom before it can take root." Just as Oloran finished speaking, a shadowy figure emerged from the back of the hall. It was a man cloaked in dark robes, his face hidden beneath a hood. He was none other than the sorcerer. He had come to witness the downfall of the royal family with his own eyes. "You fools," the sorcerer hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "You cannot stop what has already begun. The kingdom will fall, and you will witness the collapse of your precious wedding, the end of your reign." Kofi, sensing the sorcerer's true nature, lunged forward with a ferocious bark. He tore at the man's cloak with his teeth, pulling him backward. The sorcerer stumbled, startled by the dog's sudden attack. With a burst of energy, the shaman raised his hands, chanting words in an ancient tongue. A pulse of light shot from his fingertips, striking the sorcerer with the force of a thunderclap. The man screamed as his form dissolved into smoke and shadows, vanishing in an instant. The aftermath. With the sorcerer gone, the curse began to lose its hold. The mist surrounding the cake dissipated, and the dark energies that had clung to the room were banished. The royal hall, once filled with fear, now seemed peaceful once again. The guests let out a collective sigh of relief, and the mood lightened. The cake, still beautiful but no longer dangerous, was sliced and shared among the people. Kofi stood proudly by Queen Amara's side, his eyes calm and steady once more. The people cheered for the brave dog, and the kingdom was saved from disaster. The queen smiled down at Kofi, her heart full of gratitude. "Thank you, my dearest friend," she whispered. "You have protected us all." And so, the wedding proceeded, filled with joy and laughter, but forever marked by the knowledge that in the kingdom of Oranja, not everything was as it seemed, and sometimes, it was the smallest of creatures who held the greatest wisdom. The healing of the kingdom. The day after the wedding, the kingdom of Oranja was still abuzz with the aftermath of the shocking events. Though the people were filled with relief and gratitude, a deep sense of unease lingered in the air. Queen Amara and King Osei had narrowly escaped disaster, but they knew that the dangers they faced weren't over. The sorcerer's spell had not only threatened their wedding but also unleashed a dangerous reminder: there were forces out there that sought to undo the prosperity of Oranja. The royal couple decided to meet with the elders and the wisest of the kingdom's shamans to learn more about the curse and the forces at play. Kofi, always loyal and ever-present, remained by the queen's side, as if he too sensed that more needed to be done. The elders gathered in the royal court, their faces grave. Shaman Oloran, having played a key role in expelling the dark forces, spoke first. "The sorcerer who laid this curse is not the first to seek vengeance upon this land. There have been whispers of a secret sect, long forgotten, whose members are skilled in dark magic. They have been quietly plotting the downfall of our kingdom for generations." King Osei's brow furrowed as he listened. How could we have been unaware of such a threat? "Their magic is ancient," Oloran explained, his voice filled with deep concern. "It is passed down through bloodlines and hidden in the corners of the world where light does not reach. The sorcerer you encountered was merely one of their many agents. The real power lies in the hands of their elders, those who hold the true knowledge of the curse that plagues your kingdom. The queen, her voice steady but concerned, spoke next. What must we do, Oloran? How do we protect our people from this looming shadow? The old shaman took a deep breath, his eyes closing as if to commune with the ancestors. When he opened them again, his gaze was filled with an ancient knowing. There is only one way to end this threat for good. The Ajiro flower, though dangerous, is tied to a sacred ritual, one that can sever the bond between the curse and the land. It must be destroyed at its source. The flower blooms in a hidden grove, deep within the heart of the jungle. But to reach it, you must pass through trials that will test both your hearts and your courage. The room grew silent as the weight of Oloran's words settled over them. A journey into the jungle, into the heart of the unknown, would be a perilous task. Yet, the royal family had no choice but to face this challenge, for the safety of their people. Kofi, ever watchful, stood up and barked softly, as if to offer his support. It was as though he understood the gravity of the moment. The queen, her gaze softening, looked down at him. You have been our protector, Kofi, from the beginning. Will you accompany us on this journey? Will you help us defeat the evil that threatens our land? Without hesitation, Kofi wagged his tail and let out a low, firm growl. It was as if he understood the gravity of their mission, and he was ready to protect them, no matter the cost. Into the heart of the jungle. The next morning, the royal party set out from the palace. Queen Amara, King Osei, and Shaman Oloran were accompanied by a small group of trusted warriors and Kofi, who seemed to lead the way. The kingdom's citizens watched from the palace gates as their rulers embarked on this dangerous journey. The land was quiet, as if holding its breath. The path to the jungle was treacherous, winding through dense forest and across wild rivers. The trees grew thick with ancient vines, their twisted forms casting strange shadows across the ground. Strange creatures, both beautiful and terrifying, watched the travelers from the underbrush, but they kept their distance. Kofi's sharp senses guided them through the jungle with ease, his nose twitching as he led them through the maze of foliage. It wasn't long before the group reached the heart of the jungle, the sacred grove where the Ajiro flower was said to bloom. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of the earth and the strange, sweet fragrance of the flowers. The grove was unlike any place they had ever seen. It was a sanctuary of sorts, untouched by time, where the Ajiro flower grew in abundance. Its deep crimson petals glowed in the dim light that filtered through the canopy above. But there was no mistaking the danger that lay within. As the party approached, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and the air grew colder. Kofi's ears perked up, and he growled softly, warning them of an unseen presence. Shaman Oloran's voice broke the tension. We are not alone, he said. The guardians of the grove are watching us. These spirits will test us before we can reach the flower. Suddenly, from the shadows, ancient figures emerged, ethereal, otherworldly beings, the protectors of the grove. They were creatures of the forest, half human, half animal, with eyes that glowed like embers. They spoke in a language that seemed to resonate deep within the heart, as if echoing the very rhythms of the earth. You seek the Ajiro flower, one of the guardians said, its voice both haunting and melodic. But to claim it, you must prove your worth. The flower does not yield to the unworthy. The queen stepped forward, her heart beating loudly in her chest. We seek only to rid our land of a curse. We do not wish to destroy the flower, but to use its power to restore balance. The guardian's gaze softened slightly. Then you must pass 3 trials, each one designed to test the strength of your hearts. Only then will you earn the right to destroy the curse. The first trial took the travelers deep into a dark cave beneath the grove. The walls shimmered with strange, glowing runes. As they ventured further, the path split into many directions, each one leading into a seemingly endless darkness. The group was divided, and each of them faced their own fears. For Queen Amara, it was the vision of losing her kingdom and her people, surrounded by shadows of sorrow and destruction. She had to confront the fear of failure and the pain of the past. But with Kofi by her side, his steady presence reminded her of her strength. She pressed forward, her resolve solidifying as she broke through the darkness. The second trial came in the form of a riddle, an ancient puzzle that only those with wisdom could solve. The guardian appeared again, this time in the form of a large owl, its eyes wise and calculating. The truth is hidden in the dance of the stars, in the song of the river, the owl said, its voice echoing. If you seek the answer, you must listen to the land itself. The group sat together, contemplating the puzzle. It was Kofi who first looked to the ground, sniffing the soil and digging at the roots of a nearby tree. There, beneath the surface, was a hidden stone, an ancient inscription that led to the correct answer. Kofi's sharp instincts had guided them, proving that sometimes wisdom comes not from the mind, but from the heart. The sacred grove stood still under the weight of the ancient trial. A hush had fallen over the group as the guardians, those ethereal beings of the jungle, awaited their decision. The Ajiro flower, with its deep crimson petals, hung suspended in the air, glowing softly under the filtered light of the canopy. Its beauty was unmatched, its power undeniable, yet its presence felt like a looming shadow over the hearts of the travelers. The air itself seemed heavy, charged with anticipation. The guardians spoke in unison, their voices a haunting melody that resonated in the bones of all who listened. To destroy the curse, to free your land, you must offer something that binds you, something you hold most dear, the guardians intoned. Only then will the land be cleansed, and the curse be undone. But beware, for this is the hardest test. It will ask you to give up that which is most precious. Queen Amara's heart froze within her chest. She knew what they meant. The Ajiro flower was not just a symbol, it was the very thread that had tied her to her destiny. It was a gift from her ancestors, a relic imbued with powerful magic that had helped shape the kingdom of Orunja. She had held it close, nurturing it, and through it, had found her connection to the ancient forces that had once guided the rulers of the land. The Ajiro flower had been her final link to the world of magic and mystery, the very force that had shaped her reign and allowed her to protect her people. It had become a part of her, woven into the fabric of her soul. It was her symbol of hope, a reminder that the kingdom would never fall into darkness, and that the power of love, light, and magic would always prevail. But the moment had come where that connection had to be severed. What would it mean to let go of it? Amara's thoughts raced, her mind a swirl of conflicting emotions. Would destroying the flower also destroy her? Would she be able to carry on without the very thing that had given her strength? Could she stand before her people without it, knowing that her connection to the ancient powers was severed forever? King Osei, sensing the turmoil within her, stepped closer, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. His steady presence grounded her, his love a constant reassurance. He understood the depth of the trial she faced. Amara, he said softly, his voice filled with unwavering support. This flower has given you great strength. But the true strength of our kingdom, the true strength of you, lies not in the magic that binds us to the past, but in the love we share, in the people we protect, and in the sacrifices we make for the greater good. Amara turned to look into his eyes, finding solace in his unwavering gaze. Osei had always been her rock, the one who believed in her even when she doubted herself. She could feel the love between them, pure and unbreakable. And in that moment, she realized that the magic she had been so reluctant to part with had never been the true source of her power. It had only amplified what was already within her. The true power had always come from her heart, the strength to face the darkness, to stand tall, to protect her people with courage and wisdom. The bond she shared with Osei, and with the land itself, was what made her a true queen. The Ajiro flower was a part of that bond, but it was not the whole of it. As she gazed upon the flower, its soft petals glowing like the last embers of a dying fire, Amara understood. She had to release the past to move forward, to allow the kingdom to flourish and heal. Letting go of the flower did not mean losing herself, it meant trusting in the future, in the love that would always guide her, and in the legacy she would leave behind. It was time to make the sacrifice. With a deep breath, Amara stepped forward. She reached out and gently plucked the final petal of the Ejiro flower, the last piece of the magic that had once defined her. The guardians watched silently, their glowing eyes filled with solemn approval. King Osei stood by her side, his hand now firmly clasped around hers, steady and strong. The sacred fire in the center of the grove flickered to life, its flames dancing in the twilight. Amara held the petal above the flames, the weight of the moment pressing down upon her. She felt as though she were offering a piece of her soul to the fire, a final tribute to the land that had given her everything. The petal, shimmering with a faint glow, was consumed by the flames in an instant. The fire crackled and roared, its heat intensifying. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then, in an explosion of light, the curse was lifted. The ground trembled beneath their feet, but this time, it was not a tremor of destruction. It was a tremor of renewal. The very earth beneath them seemed to pulse with life, as if the kingdom itself were awakening from a long, dark slumber. The Ejiro flower, once a symbol of power and mystery, had been burned away, its curse lifted, and its magic purified. The land was free. Amara collapsed into Osei's arms, exhausted but filled with a profound sense of peace. Kofi, who had watched from the shadows, barked joyously, his tail wagging furiously. He had sensed the change in the air, the weight of the curse had lifted, and the kingdom was once again safe. The group returned to Orunja, their steps heavy with the knowledge that they had faced and overcome the greatest challenge of their lives. The skies above the kingdom were clearer than they had been in years. The air was fresh, and the land seemed to pulse with new life. Flowers bloomed in vibrant colors, the rivers flowed with renewed vigor, and the sun shone brighter than it ever had before. The people of Orunja lined the streets to greet their rulers, their voices filled with joy and relief. The danger had passed. The curse had been broken. But it was not just the triumph over evil that the people celebrated. They celebrated the strength of their queen and king, their unwavering courage, and the sacrifices they had made for the good of all. Kofi, the loyal dog who had played such an integral part in saving the kingdom, was hailed as a hero. His bark had not only alerted them to the danger but had also led them through the trials that ultimately freed Orunja from its curse. The dog, small but mighty, had proven that even the most unassuming of creatures could change the course of destiny. Queen Amara, though weary, stood tall and proud. She had given up a piece of herself to save her kingdom, but she knew that the true magic lay in the love she shared with Osei, with her people, and with the land itself.